Вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества – Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш email info@rusa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 347 460 08 77.
Добрый день всем, кто сейчас настроен на радио РУСА. В эфире моя самая любимая передача «Thank God It's Tuesday». Меня зовут Анна Пекерман, а тот, с кем я ее веду, зовут Маниса Фридман, Rabbi Маниса Фридман. И каждый раз я говорю это вслух, что мы с ним ведем передачу. Я хочу себя ущипнуть и понять, что это уже вот такая у меня реальность. Вот так посчастливилась уже несколько лет. И я просто не верю своему счастью. И то, что этот гениальный человек проводит с нами еженедельно вот этот час, это просто... большое-большое благословение сверху, поэтому не буду терять время, перейду сразу к нашей беседе с раввином Манисом Фридманом. И тему, которую я сегодня обозначила раввину Манису Фридману, это «Какая будет цель нашей жизни после прихода Мессии?» Все будет хорошо, так какая же у нас цель? Ну вот насчет этого мы с ним сегодня и поговорим. Rabbi Фридман. Hello. Thank God it's Tuesday.
I think it's time for me to learn Russian.
And first question then, when Mashiach comes, will we speak every language, all of us? Will we be able to understand everyone in every corner of the world?
That's a very good question. Well, will everybody speak Hebrew?
That's the prerequisite.
Everybody's going to want to study the Torah, so why study it in a translation when you can go to the original? Now, I'm sure all the languages will still exist because they serve the godly purpose, and there's no reason they should disappear.
Absolutely. But the question that I have today, and I already said it in Russian, so we spoke about it in a couple of our programs, and what would one do when everything is taken care of, everything is perfect, there's pure goodness in the world? What will be our purpose when Mashiach comes? It's a very hard answer for a lot of people to give, and I did a little survey, and I'll talk about it a little later in our program, because I have been asking people, what would you do? Okay, everything is good. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to make the world better. You don't have to go out there and make a living. Everything is wonderful. What will you be doing? So probably the hardest question I've asked anybody in the longest time, because nobody can really give that kind of an answer. Everybody gets a little lost. So then the question should be, what will be our purpose when Mashiach comes, when Messiah comes? So, Rabbi Friedman, is there answer in our books, in our studies, in the Torah about what will be our purpose when Mashiach comes?
What kind of answers have you been getting?
Okay, so that would be the second question I asked people. The first question I would ask, what would you do if you had no fears? That is an easier question for people to answer, but the common denominator that I got from everybody, if I had no fears and no worries, I would be happy.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the answer, and then there were different things. Some people think they have no fears. You think that's realistic?
Very rare. But if you had no fears, you would be happy?
That's what people are saying. Yeah,
I don't think so. If you had no fears, you would be miserable because of the second question. So what's the point? What are you doing? The thing that makes us unhappy is not what's happening to us, it's what's not happening. I don't know why I'm here. So even if good things are happening and nothing bad is happening, why am I here? A good, comfortable life for no reason is the worst thing in the world. It would make everybody totally miserable. Which makes the second question even stronger, because after Mashiach comes, it will be a totally comfortable and peaceful life. So the simple answer is, once we know what we're here for, it doesn't matter. The rest is just commentary. So whether we're fighting the demons, whether we're slaying the dragons, or just enjoying each other's company, it wouldn't matter if I knew what I was doing. Now the question is, okay, the world is now perfect, everything is good, there are no problems, there's nothing negative, and I know what I'm doing. What am I doing? What am I?
Exactly. This is where everybody gets stumped.
What am I doing? If you want a really abstract, deeply philosophical answer, which is about the best we can do right now until Mashiach comes. See, when God created the world, He created endless levels of holiness. The last few steps is where negativity gets introduced. So there are endless, infinite worlds that have no evil in them whatsoever. The evil gets introduced just in the last step, so to speak. So all the creatures of those higher worlds, what is their existence all about? Like angels. So I think this might be a little bit helpful. We know the difference between good and bad, right and wrong. Excuse me.
I have to ask at this point, do we? Do we know the difference? Doesn't seem like everybody is in sync on that one.
Okay, but we know that they're different, right? Good is good, bad is bad, okay. But there's also a difference in up and down, the direction. Closer or further. So let's start in a human relationship. If I hurt you, I'm damaging the relationship. If I do something nice for you, I'm improving the relationship. So the focus is on what I did. Did I do something nice? Did I do something not nice? That's what we're familiar with. But if you go a little deeper, let's say I can't do anything. Not good, not bad. Can I still get closer to you? Or further away from you? Yes. If I think about you, I'm closer. If I forget about you, I'm further. I didn't do anything. Well, I didn't do anything in action. But in thought, I can either be closer or further. On a higher level than that, I'm not even thinking about you. But in essence, you're the most precious thing in my life. Or, not so precious. Number two, not number one. So there's closeness, there's going up in the relationship, there's going down in the relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to involve an action or even a thought. So in the higher worlds, a relationship consists of deeper, higher, greater parts of ourselves than our behavior or our speech. So the question can be reworded in this way. Let's say there's a couple and they can't act. They're paralyzed and they can't speak. Is there still a relationship?
Yes.
And that relationship can get better or it can get worse. And nobody's doing anything wrong. So after Mashiach comes, our relationship with God will be extremely motivating, even though there's no bad or unholiness to motivate us. Because going up or going down will become as exciting and as motivating as buying the flowers or not buying the flowers. So what are we going to be busy with? Going up. And that's infinite. There's no end to how high you can get. There's no end to how close you can get to God, because God is infinite. You reach one level, there are infinite more levels to go. That to us sounds a little boring because, good is good and it could be better, but what's the urgency? So I'll get better tomorrow. It has to be today. But it will feel urgent because the need to go up, not the need to fix. So closeness is a subject we really need to study before Mashiach comes, in our own relationships. I can give you a book with a list of things to do for your husband or for your wife that will be pure, wonderful good. And you do everything on the list, and you have no relationship. There's much more to a relationship than what you do or don't do, what you say or don't say. And that's why sometimes in marriage counseling, better communication skills, that's a skill. Will it get you closer or make you further? You never know. Because you become really articulate and you can really hurt people with your words because you know how to communicate your hate. So before you learn to communicate, make sure you're not hating. So what is exit? Maybe we should dedicate a show for this. What does closeness mean? I know what nice means. I can be nice. Will that produce closeness? Can you be close even when you're not nice? Nicely antagonistic? Yeah. So when Mashiach comes, the subject will be close, which means up or down.
Reverend Fridman, I don't want to miss this moment. And since we are talking about closeness, can you elaborate a little bit? Now, we will dedicate a show to it. Absolutely. It's a very important topic because we need to understand how to get closer to the ones we love, to each other, especially to God, since we're on the verge and we need to learn this skill very badly right now. But can we at least get a little taste of it without dedicating a whole show to it, so we can start thinking about it and working on it right away?
Well, the way we are created, we each have our own ego, or id, or whatever it is. We are very, very conscious of ourselves, and that's a very unpleasant kind of a prison. I can't get beyond myself. Like, for example, I know what it feels like to be hungry when I'm hungry. You tell me you're hungry, I don't know what that means. I don't feel it. I don't get it. I don't get your hunger. I hear, I see, I don't relate to it the way I relate to my hunger. When I have good news, everything's good. Life is good, everything's wonderful. You have good news, I'm happy for you. It's not the same. Oh, good for you. Yeah, nice. Mazel tov, mazel tov. But when I have good news, the whole world is beautiful. That's the challenge is, can your good news be as exciting as my good news? Can your good news be more exciting than my good news? That's closeness. Can your hunger make me as uncomfortable as my hunger? So the first question is, really, is that even possible? From where we sit today, with our egos, it doesn't even seem possible. But it is. And when it happens, it is truly magnificent. Usually it comes with many, many years of shared existence and, an elderly couple who are just absolutely inseparable. But by then it's, you don't have the energy to enjoy it. But that's what closeness means. Closeness means I'm excited because of something you have, or I'm hurt because of something that happened to you. Not I feel for you. I feel you the way I would if it was my problem.
Rabbi Friedman, but how do we achieve that? I say it is possible. I believe it's possible. But how does a person, at this stage of our lives, that as the world is today, everything we are observing and living inside of this whole situation, is it possible, and how for us now to achieve it?
For us now, realistically speaking, moments. We can have moments when we truly step out of ourselves and become the other person. That's not an exaggeration. It does happen, but for us, it's momentary. It's fleeting. We get glimpses of it, moments of it, and that's sad, because if you can have a moment of it, then obviously it's possible. So why does it only last for a minute? So we try. 2 steps. Number 1, stop taking yourself so seriously, because that kind of uses up all your empathetic energy. So if you take yourself very seriously, your pleasure and your pain, there isn't much left to feel other people's pleasure and other people's pain. So you got to loosen up. You got to release some of those energies to make it available for others. In other words, don't take yourself so seriously. Humility is a huge, huge factor. In fact, it's the whole thing. If we are totally governed by our ego, then humility is the key to life. The only escape from our ego is a little humility. And humility doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. A person convincing himself that he's bad, or he's stupid, that's not humility. That's part of self-obsession. Humility means Why do we keep talking about me? What's the point? I know what I am what I am. Why are we talking about this all the time? Why am I thinking about it all the time? It doesn't deserve so much attention. That releases some energy so that you can give some away or let somebody else in. The other is developing a habit of seeing what is nice in other people. Because what we see immediately are the negative. You know, we notice when something is off balance, out of center. We should start noticing what is good. You know, the famous stories about the Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. I don't know what's happening at Berdichev these days, but the famous rabbi of Berdichev, he always found something positive about everybody, and it was absolutely sincere. It wasn't something he acquired. He was that way. So he saw somebody eating on Tisha B'Av. It's a fast day. So he goes over to him. He says, "Did you forget that it's a fast day?" The guy said, "No." He said, "Did you forget that you're not allowed to eat?" "No." "Did a doctor tell you that your health requires that you eat and you have to?" "No." And Baticheva said, "You're amazing. You're so honest." So we can always, if we try, we can always see the positive and treasure it instead of seeing the negative and getting all excited about it. So those are the two steps. A little less about me, a little more positive about you.
So, Rabbi Friedman, when I was doing this survey, and the first question was, like I said, what would you do if you had no fear? And the second question was, what would you do if everything is good and nothing to worry about, nothing to make better? So I had some very interesting answers from different people. Like I said, the common denominator, that fear is associated with worrying. Fear and worrying seems to be along the same lines for a lot of people. So, as I said, most of it, if there was no worrying and fear, then it would be happiness. This is the opposite. This is what it is to a lot of people, and it seems that most of the people are worried about what's going to happen, and therefore fearful of, which way, fearful of not handling everything that is coming, taking care of their lives, taking care of their business. This is where the fear and worries are, and it seems to be the same for people. It seems to be those two, like for most people, is has the same meaning. So, and then for the second question, I had very different answers. And one I really, really liked. One lady said, well, if Mashiach was here, I would pray, learn, and be grateful. So instead of constantly talking to God and asking for something, I would just be grateful for everything and switch kind of that relationship with God. Instead of being needy, just being grateful. So I thought that was kind of beautiful. A lot of people answer that they don't have, that they would spend more time with their families if Mashiach was here, that they would open themselves up more, their talents, which they don't have time to do, go inside themselves, find out more about who they are, what they're here for, because otherwise they're very preoccupied with making a living and and worrying about things. A lot of people said, family relations, especially with the children, that they don't have the kind of relationships that they would really want to have. So those were kind of the answers that I got from people. Very similar, that they would spend more time with the family, find out who they are, be grateful, be happy. So those were the answers. Are they at all remotely close to what we should be expecting? Are people on the right track when this is how they envision life without problems?
It's a really tiny little piece of it. Let's think of it this way. Now that we have the internet, and we have access to information from all over the world, you spend a half hour listening to the news, and you are severely depressed. So many problems, so much bad news. It's so overwhelming. It can paralyze you. Like, what's the point? Imagine you had that same reaction to good news. Imagine someone comes to you and says, I'm so happy because a child was born. And you say, to whom? He says, what's the difference? Can you imagine that? A child being born is such an incredible joy to the parents, to the grandparents. Beyond that, So when I say a child was born, you say, to whom? Why does it matter to whom? Because if it's somebody I know, then it'll give me a little pleasure. If I don't know him, who cares? That's got to go. You get depressed because you heard that somebody was killed in a foreign country where you have no relatives and you couldn't speak their language anyway. You never met the person, but just the fact that there's so much killing going on is so depressing. Right? You know, there's a lot of birth going on everywhere in the world. Yeah, that doesn't do anything for you. Why? Why? Why is good not good unless it's about me? Somebody I know in my neighborhood. Like even Americans. You hear that there was a terrorist attack someplace and a tourist. Oh, were there any Americans?
Sure.
And for Jews? Is that good for the Jews? Is that bad for the Jews? Was it anti-Semitism? See, when Mashiach comes, good will be what it's meant to be. You hear that a child is born, it'll feel like your child was born. Because that barrier, that imprisonment that we all suffer from, my tiny little world is only as big as me. And it has to be relevant to me, and it has to, that is so, it's so unpleasant, it is so embarrassing to the human. Why is my life so tiny? So I think that's a good visual. You know, I'm happy because a child was born.
Amazing.
Yeah. To you? No, not to me. Anybody you know? No, nobody I know. So it's not good. So it's not a miracle. It's not wonderful. You know it is because it happened to you. You know, we talk about the environment. If there's a nuclear leak in Chernobyl, the whole world is going to suffer to some degree. Why not in the positive? If there is one person who just gave birth to a baby after waiting for a long time, and this person is so thrilled she can't contain herself, that doesn't affect the whole world? That energy doesn't change the balance of happy and sad in the world? Of course it does. When will we feel it? When will we be sensitive enough to wake up excited because somebody in the world just had a baby after waiting for a long time? That's how it's going to be when Mashiach comes. But that's what we can imagine. What's really going to happen? It's so different that until it happens, there's no way we can describe it.
Rabbi Fridman, we live in such a surreal world. I just want to share a funny moment that happened, work-related. One customer called in and requested for us to put 2 proposals for her to get together for advertising on the radio. And she said, I would like to sponsor news. So I asked her, I said, we have regular news on the top of every hour, and then we have good news every half an hour. I said, which one would you prefer? So she said, you know what, put 2 proposals together for me, one for bad news, one for good news. I thought that was kind of humorous. What kind of world we live in? I heard it from the side, and it was pretty funny. So Rabbi Fridman, but interestingly enough, that people want to get more in touch with themselves. To them, when Mashiach comes, they will have more time. What they're relating this to is that they will have more time for themselves, not necessarily for selfish reason, but for self-discovery, for self-education, for time with family. So this is something you're saying that we should be opposite. So it's not going to be more. It's not going to be all about that. Will not be important anymore to knowing who you are as an individual. You're saying that everything will become more integrated?
You could say we will discover the other side of ourselves, not more of this side. But that's like going through adolescence. You get 20 years to discover yourself. After that, enough already, stop. Switch to the other part of you. The part of you that belongs to someone else. That's when we start to fall in love, get ourselves into trouble. So the days before Mashiach is like our growing up days, our adolescence, our youth. Once Mashiach comes, then we got to grow up. Enough about me. What else is there in the world?
Another thing that I discovered when I was serving people is when you ask them, what would you do if you had no fears? And then what would you do if everything was great in the world and total goodness? It's interesting. When they answer both these questions, it's a perfect individual prayer, because obviously they identify the fears and sort of go beyond them, and then they picture themselves in the perfect environment. So everybody I spoke to, at the end I did say, well, may your prayers be answered.
Until Mashiach comes, all of our petty needs are still important, and we should take each other's needs very seriously, even though we're praying that by tomorrow it shouldn't matter at all. But today it matters, so we take it seriously. So yes, we should all have good news, painless, pleasant, understandable. We just need to understand ourselves and life and people, and not understanding drives us crazy. The brain is hungry, starving for information. And that's why what you're doing is so right. It's so appropriate for these times. You're not offering entertainment. You're trying to satisfy the hunger of the brain.
Rabbi Fried,
Make sense of something. Life is going crazy.
yeah, but what do you do with yourself if you think very, very globally? Because I wasn't able to answer the question, what would I do if I had no fears on the spot? But a few hours later, I did have an answer. What would I do? I would hack every communication and media device in the world and teach people morality, teach people Torah. That's what I would do if I had no fears and a little bit of a skill to do that. So,
You are doing that.
on the tiny scale, well, maybe not so tiny. I don't know. I don't know how we measure our successes, or abilities. But thank you so much.
You're in charge of a radio show, not the whole satellite. And so you're doing the maximum you can do with a radio program.
Thank you. So basically, a lot of people are saying that they're also experiencing some physical changes lately, that they're becoming more in tune with the world, that they're becoming more sensitive, even more profound. They feel things greater. They feel energies which has never happened to them before. And I don't know if it's intellect or insights of some sort, like almost like being connected to a higher intellect. So people actually started to experience, a lot of people that I speak with are saying that they are experiencing some sort of changes. Is that somehow the beginning of the process? Is this happening to a lot of people? I don't know. People are not really talking about it just yet openly, but in your circles or in the learnings, is this something that we are supposed to be experiencing before the arrival of Mashiach?
It's a very real, definite phenomenon. And I get calls on Zoom from Africa, from China, from Germany, places I really would not expect, asking to study Torah. And so, what is your interest? You want to convert to Judaism? No. We just feel like we need to know the Torah. Yeah, it's mysterious. A little bit you can attribute it to the internet. You know, all this information is flying around in the ether world. So it's going to affect people, especially people who are a little bit sensitive. So the question is, will that have a positive effect or a negative effect? So more people are depressed and intimidated and hopeless because of all that they're hearing, consciously and unconsciously, subconsciously. And then there are people who are becoming a little more excited about life because of all the positive energy. Our job is to guide people towards the positive energy when this is happening, until Mashiach comes, and then there will be only positive energy.
Rabbi Friedman, we have time for one more question, if you don't mind. Also, what I've noticed when I was speaking to people, when they're saying, I'd like to learn more something or other, or I'd like to spend time more with the family, I'd like to be nicer to the people around me. Aren't those things attainable even here and now? And then the question would be, if this is something people envision when Mashiach comes already, by doing certain things now, is it possible to quicken the process, to to speed things up, and as far as coming of Mashiach is concerned?
Absolutely. We expand our universe. We try to do it all the time. To expand my existence, my world, means to let you into my world. Now my world is bigger. It used to be just me, one person, now it's two people. So I have a bigger universe, 100% increase. Well, what does it mean to let you into my universe? My universe means, reducing it down to simple, my universe means my hunger and my joy. Your hunger and your joy is not part of my universe. Bringing you into my universe means, yes, your joy and your hunger are now part of my experience. If I do that with 3 people, 10 people, 30 people, I'm an amazing human being. But it's just 30 people. That's because Mashiach is not here. So I guess we could say that once Mashiach is here, every human being will be in my universe. That's big.
Huge.
So every birth, every happy occasion, every smile will be mine. That's a little overwhelming. Will we be happy or will we be ecstatic? Out of our minds with positivity. But that is a more practical way of judging our progress. Your world is bigger because there are others in it. How many? How many people are in your universe because their pain is your pain and their joy is your joy? Increase it by 1 and you're doing great.
Rabbi Fridman, amazing. I mean, I feel like every program we have, we move just a step higher. Just what you're saying today, that this concept today of feeling what other people are feeling everywhere, and to be happy, just to be happy for good news, not for personal good news, but for good news, is just amazing. And it's something that we have to take inside ourselves and live with, and hopefully develop way before Mashiach gets here. So we're greatly prepared for his arrival. Rabbi Fridman, thank you so much. Thank you for this time that you give us. Thank you for the light, for the positivity that you give every day to so many. And this is priceless. Thank you. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude to you. Thank you so much. And I want to tell our listeners in Russian already. Пожалуйста, ребят, не останавливайтесь на достигнутом. Рэба Фридмана можно найти на Ютубе. Есть много книг, которые он написал на Амазоне. Напишите Рэба Маниса Фридмана, вы увидите Creating a Life That Matters, прекрасная книга. И вообще есть itsgoodtoknow.org. В общем, получайте вот этот вот заряд, который нам всем сейчас так нужен, и распространяйте его. Спасибо всем огромное. Прощаюсь со всеми. До следующей недели. Это была передача Thank God It's Tuesday.
Каждый вторник в 12:10 один из самых известных раввинов нашего времени, Маниса Фридман, в прямом эфире отвечает на вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества — Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш email info@rusa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 347 460 08 77.